When was the last time you tasted something for the first time? A deliciousness you've never had before and will never have enough of after. A kind of ice cold that gives you chills in the best kind of way. A combination of fizz and flavor that makes you feel a lovely, lovely burn. A type of encounter that made you wonder, how in the world did we not meet earlier?
All right, hey y'all, welcome back to This with Krish show. Now today I'm talking a little bit about something that I typically wouldn't have talked about, but I wanted to share anyway because I read this article this morning and here we are. So imagine you're reaching for a can of Diet Coke, and we don't own any Diet Coke in our house, so here's a Coke can, or a zero sugar Coke, thinking you're making a healthier choice. Now you've heard that sugar is bad, and then calories are what make you gain weight. So you would assume that diet sodas or diet versions are better for you, right? Wrong. What if that seemingly innocent can is running a sting operation on your liver, your brain, and maybe your nervous system as well? Okay, today I want to walk you through a major new study that questions whether diet drinks are really the sugar-free haven that we all think they are, right? Then I'll transition to kind of a deep, personal story about a specific ingredient that in the sodas that really nearly wrecked my life. Okay, I'm also going to talk about the pros and cons of modern medicine versus some natural things that are out there. I'm not a proponent or promoting either, but I do want to share those. I want to share a little bit about how our bodies break them down and how individual sensitivity may explain why some people are affected by these chemicals in these Diet Cokes and why others are not. And I'm not a doctor, let me mention that, okay? So this is not medical advice. So let's begin. Let's start with this Fox News article that was published earlier today. And as always, I was reading things, and I'll add the link to the description of the episode. The title of the episode was "Major Study of Drinks Raises Questions About Health Impacts," or something like that. It was on Fox News. Here's the Cliff Notes or the headline takeaways. Okay, this particular study was done over, I think, the course of 10 years in the UK, and they studied 120,000 adults who had no liver disease, at the baseline. Over time, the researchers observed that those who drank artificially sweetened beverages like Diet Cokes, Coke Zeros, and low non-sugars, and whatever sweetened beverages, had about a 60% higher risk of developing, now stay with me, I'm going to try to say this right, metabolic dysfunction associated steatotic liver disease, MASLD, formerly known as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I don't know why there's a former. Anyway, for comparison, those who drank sugar-sweetened beverages had a 50% higher risk. In other words, the diet versions were not protective, right? They appeared worse at a liver risk, and at least in this analysis. So the implication, simply switching from regular Coke to a diet one might not protect you and your liver, okay? It may even make things worse in the long run. I feel like I'm yelling, sorry. It's worth pulling the curtain back a little bit, okay? Because there's studies that, a lot of studies have limitations, and they can't always prove the causation to correlation. People that drink Diet Coke might differ in many ways, right? Because they are heavier or have different, habits and whatever. But it is also a signal worth paying attention to. And these studies aren't new, right? You see them all the time on TikTok and whatever. But these other studies have flagged concerning links between sweetened beverages and like cardiovascular, liver, whatever, right? A bunch of different health issues. Some other studies suggest that drinking two or more Artificially sweetened beverages may raise risk for heart disease and strokes. There's more studies out there that, um, you know, link irregular heartbeat as a risk from diet drinks. There's even concerns about my insulin sensitivity, appetite regulation. I mean, it's wild how many different things and how many different studies kind of all at the root go back to diet sweeteners. This Fox News article is kind of, riding a wave of scrutiny, right, that already exists over artificial sweeteners and the safe alternative narrative that's being put out there. The article was kind of laser focused, and the study was laser focused on the liver, right? And our livers, like, it handles the toxins. I believe it filters blood, processes the nutrients, metabolizes fats and sugars. We all learned this in high school, I think, right, in biology. But over time, the fatty liver can lead to inflammation, fibrosis, cirrhosis, and even liver cancer with the consumption of sweeteners and also alcohol. Look, if diet sodas are linked with a 60% higher relative risk in that study, uh, I would say that's a red flag, right? At the very least, it's cause for your own further investigation, okay? Whether that's going through your WebMDs or ChatGPT, whatever, right? Like, learn more about it. Now, this is where my story kind of enters the picture, and the catchy clickbait title that we got, right? So when I was 32, I got sober, okay? I was, that's 2013 or so. And that journey itself, I promise, will have its own episode coming soon. But it was about 3 months after I got sober. And I started getting these, like, insane headaches, okay? Not your average headache. It was like the ones where you want to, like, bash your head against the wall. They were light sensitive, kind of like migraines. And the only way I knew how to deal with it was, like, I would lie in my dark room, silence, sometimes in a fetal position, because that was the only way I could get through and survive that pain. I went to see doctors, neurologists. I had test after test after test, MRIs, CT scans. I mean, literally nothing, no diagnosis, and no relief. Okay. Weeks went by, and I got to say, I was falling apart, right? It was tough. I remember my dad calling me, right, my awesome dad, who said, "Hey man, what about if I take you to see this chiropractor who he every morning would listen to on the radio, Dr. Joe Esposito, who has a nationally syndicated radio show, Dr. Joe, check it out." Um, but I was up for anything. So I went with my dad, walked into Dr. Joe's clinic. The person handed me a stack of papers, right? And I had to fill out my life story, my medical history, my habits, my consumption, my nutrition, my moods, my symptoms, sex life. I mean, it was pretty intrusive. And then Dr. Joe walked out. He shook my hand. He had the clipboard that I had filled out under the other hand. He looked me dead in the eyes and he goes, "Krishna, I've taken a look at your paperwork, and I see that you drink 3 to 4 cans of Diet Coke every single day. And I'm not going to charge you for this first visit, okay? What I'm going to ask you to do is go home, stop drinking that stuff. One of my assistants will check up on you at the end of the week, and we'll see how you're doing." That was it, okay? No complex protocol, no invasive tests, just stop drinking Diet Coke. And guess what, right? Within days, not immediately, but gradually, those headaches, man, they started to ease. Within a week or two, they completely faded. And that was the last time I had a headache like that, ever, since 2013, okay? To date, I've had no Diet Cokes. I've not had a headache, at least not like that, in 13 years. Kids give me headaches sometimes, but whatever. Look, I believe now that what I experienced was, in fact, aspartame poisoning, right? It was subtle, it was insidious, and it was brutal. it turned my life upside down before I even realized what it was. So let me give you a little story about what aspartame is. Okay, at least the Wikipedia description. Aspartame is a widely used artificial sweetener, roughly 200 times sweeter than sugar. What? Used in diet sodas, sugar-free gum, low-calorie desserts, tabletop sweeteners, etc. When digested, aspartame breaks down into two things I'm not even going to try to say, all right, but methanol as well. um, I'll probably put a link in the description to help me out. Regulatory authorities have long debated its safety. The FDA, approved it in 1974. Um, as of 2023, this is interesting, right? So, as of 2023, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, classified aspartame as possibly being carcinogenic. Oh my God, that was rough. Um, but they cannot correlate the causation either. Okay, some studies and reviews suggest that aspartame may act as a migraine or headache trigger. Okay, some last stats, and I promise I'll stop with the stats. Okay, uh, one trial found that subjects reported headaches on 33% of the days during aspartame exposure versus 24% on placebo days. Right, so there is some kind of okay. One more stat. Um, survey of headache clinic patients, about 8.2% reported aspartame as a trigger. Um, Look, I love the stats. Okay. I'm also, I guess I'm kind of an aspartame hater. Okay. So that's me. Um, and look, I know that like the science in this episode is ambiguous. I meant for it to be intriguing. But I do want to share my personal story. Again, it doesn't matter if people are or are not, subject to getting migraines from aspartame, or I'm not telling you to stop drinking Diet Coke, but you should make that decision for yourself and do your own research. Okay, I'm also not telling you to go see neurologists and doctors. You should. There's a place for them or whatever. I A small part of me is a conspiracy theorist in the sense that our medical system in the United States is broken, and the fact that I spent maybe a couple of $1,000s in bills to go see these doctors and have these tests and whatever, and I felt still like crap. Whereas I went to this chiropractor who didn't charge me. Didn't matter that I would have paid him anyway. The point is that he's the only person out of all those doctors I saw that asked me what I was eating and drinking every day, and and he was smart enough or had seen enough of these situations to be able to tell me, hey, this is what it is. Like, science is really one size fits all, right? While some people that may consume aspartame or diet drinks or whatever will have no obvious issues, there's a subset, right, who may react in ways that standard studies can't easily detect. So I get that the doctors couldn't see it, but it shouldn't take Dr. House to figure it out. By the way, really good show. Um, One challenge, right, is in research as a whole, and with any data, right, is that many trials, right, test single doses or short term exposure because they're trying to get to the answer faster, and sometimes things take longer. That's and then you have the individuals that are susceptible, or going to react in different ways. That's just the way it is. Okay. Um, Again, this episode isn't the regular norm for me, but this is a story I wanted to share because, like, how wild is it that you go see doctors and chiropractors when it fixes you? But I do want to share with you to listen to your body. Okay, as we all get older, I mean, it doesn't matter what age. I mean, there's high school kids that are going to high school graduations and think they have a flu, end up with pneumonia and whatever, and it was because maybe their immune system was weakened by something they were eating, drinking. I mean, it's just wild how crazy it is. Okay, in 2025. Okay, look, there needs to be more research done on Diet Cokes or Coke Zeros or whatever, because you know a generation will drink it and they'll think. Remember the whole Mellow Yellow, and Monster Energy drinks and Red Bull, and everyone loved it, and and then all of a sudden it's just bad. Okay, um, I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I'm a water guy now, so that's pretty fun. Um, Look, there is so much out there that we can eat and drink that is bad for you. I had this whole conversation at dinner earlier this week with some colleagues, and it was intense because there's really nothing that's good for you anymore. It's wild. Look, before we wrap up, I want to say I don't expect everyone to agree with my interpretations, right, in this episode. Some of my listeners, I would say, consume Diet Coke and will do so for the rest of their lives without problem. That's valid, but the point of this episode is to challenge the assumption that diet equals safe. Okay, to shine a light on the underappreciated risks associated with diet sodas and whatever, right? I'll be doing a full deep dive episode, like I've promised, on my sobriety journey, how I got clean, what I discovered along the way, my faith that tied all into my health and transformation over the years, and my just yeah, it's gonna be fun. It'll be deep. Um, but if you've ever had any kind of unexplained neurological symptoms, chronic headaches or migraines, or just a nagging suspicion that something in your diet is off, keep your ears open, right? You may hear your own body's whisper in what seems like a harmless can. Now, until the next time, I want you guys to stay curious, stay skeptical, where appropriate, and always honor the experience of your own body. Um, it's all about faith, family, and freedom, and I love you guys.